Okay, I just finished Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and I want to make a quick video about my thoughts on it. So, conclusion first, I think the game's awesome. Uh, this is a very good, like medieval bohemian life sim almost. It's going very heavily on the simulation aspect and making you feel like you are Henry, you are the character in the game. And making you feel very immersed in the experience. I think that's what it's doing best. And also, I think the game has very good story. It has a lot of interesting twists and turns that's unexpected. And that I think set it apart from a lot of other games in this genre as recently it's been coming out, especially from what I feel like the stale AAA industry, where the story are kind of bland and you can see how it's going to go from the beginning. And in the end, you usually just go how you think it's going to go. Uh, but this game doesn't do that. This game actually has very good, uh, unexpected twists and turns throughout the game. And so I think the story is very good as well. I think the performance wise, the graphics is also pretty good. It's a continuation of Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, if you played that one. It is using Crytek engine. So it'll look different from all the Unreal Engine game on the market. And I feel like it won't look as good as the Unreal Engine games, like the Black Myth Wukong and all the forthcoming ones. But it still look very detailed in its own right. And the benefit of it is it actually runs pretty well. So I'm running it on a 4090 and a 7800 XVD, a 7800 XVD. And I am running an ultra setting with DLSS turned on to performance on 4K. And I'm usually getting like 150 to 180 FPS. So that's a pretty smooth experience. In comparison, when I played the Cyberpunk 2077, I needed to turn on frame generation as well as DLSS to get around 90 FPS, whereas here I get 180 without even frame gen. So that's quite, I think, it's not very hard to run. So I think a lot of people will be able to enjoy it. So that's performance out of the way and story out of the way. So, and come back just briefly. It's also a continuation of first game. It's a directional based combat. It's similar to Mount and Blade if you played that. It's also similar to, I think, For Honor. That's a Ubisoft game. It's like that. And I think it works. I'll talk more about it later. And yeah, and there's when it comes to bugs, I only run into one game breaking bugs where the game crashed. Other than that, the game's actually pretty smooth. I'm pretty impressed considering it's a small studio and it's their second game. So that's a rapid fire round off. Then I'll try to talk a little bit deeper into what I think about the game. So first of all, I really like the fact that it's going for something very unique because when it comes to modern games, very few of them I feel like are going for like a realistic take, a realistic historical period. And most of them are going to fantasy. Even for like the games that I like very much, like Witcher 3 is fantasy, like you can say Persona is fantasy, Dragon Age is fantasy, Outer Worlds is fantasy. And the only realistic games I can think of that are popular are like Red Dead Redemption, GTA, and this one. I don't know if Yakuza counts because yeah, I think Yakuza counts. Yes. So those are the only ones that come to mind. But most other games like Baldur's Gate 3, Persona 5, Tears of the Kingdom, like other ones, right? These are all fantasy based. And then I think it's just because fantasy allows you a greater degree of freedom to create a world and narrative that you want. Whereas if you're creating things in a historical period, you have a lot of constraint, right? You can't have magic solving problems for you. You can't let your imagination run wild and just entertain your players with creative ideas And especially if you're doing things in a historical context, you have to adhere to what historically happened, right? You have sort of like a guide or a chain on you when you're making this game. And I think I really appreciate the fact that they're actually able to pull off so wonderfully. So, uh, with as they are going really for the immersive aspect, they did a couple things. Like you need to sleep and eat. When you try to save, you can't save willingly, just willy nilly. You have to either sleep on the bed you own, or you have to drink a particular alchemy potion, save your schnapps, or if the game saves at exit, or the game saves at a particular at crucial quest progressions. And other aspect that increases immersiveness includes how the NPCs react to your actions. It's actually quite convincing because I think we've at this point all been used to like how in a lot of games NPC just doesn't, they're kind of just like characters in the background. They don't really react to what you're doing. And I think we have gamers have taken it for granted that that's just kind of how NPC are supposed to be, and we're just kind of going along with the lie. But I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 really improved on that aspect. For instance, when you are stealing items from NPCs, they are usually behaving pretty intelligently. So, because I was playing Starfield not so long ago, and I think that's actually a good comparison because I think one is the example of what kind of AAA industry is facing, the issue AAA industry is facing, and the other one, meaning this game, is showing how we can get better games, how in areas in which the games can be improved. So, for instance, like stealing Starfield, the only thing you need to do is you need to not be in the line of sight of the person of interest when you're stealing their items, and that can get into some hilarious like interactions because, for instance, you can literally walk if someone is sitting in a room with a terminal and you're trying to hack the terminal, and assuming he's saying like sitting across the terminal, all you need to do is to walk behind the terminal, crouch, and so that the terminal is in the way between you and the guy, then you can start hacking them. He wouldn't notice. But if you think about it realistically, that would definitely not work because people will be like, what are you crouching down for, right? What are you hiding? But it just works and stuff, and it's kind of what we expect. But here, it's different because, first of all, you cannot be in environments where you're not allowed in. And if you are, say, sneaking in people's houses and you're stealing something, and of course, if you got caught in the act, they would interrogate you. But even if you didn't get caught in the act, if you just saw walking out of like a restricted area, they will still go into the room and check, in this chest, is there something missing, right? And similarly, if you walked out of a, maybe not even a restricted room, but you stole something that's on display, and a guard walks in, and he will notice something's missing, right? And then he will try to look for who is stealing it. If you're around, he'll try to interrogate you to see if you stole it. Same thing goes for like murder. If you just murder someone in sleep, and then you're seen like walking around or escaping or doing something suspicious, they'll actually eventually figure out that you did it, and you have to either pay for the crimes or, talk your way out of it. So this aspect, I think, of immersiveness is, I think it contributes a lot to feeling like you're part of the character. It contributes to believing the lie of the video game that you are Henry in 1400 Bohemia. And there are other activities like alchemy is also made to be, because in other games, alchemy would just be you pick a couple of potions, pick a couple of herbs, right? Go to the alchemy tab, and then click combine, then you get the potion. But here's different. Here you actually need to go to an alchemical bench, set your book properly on a stand, and refer to the book when you can, and then step by step create the potion as instructed from the book. And that's just so awesome. It's never been done before, but it's just like a cool mini game that's contribute to the immersiveness. You need to say pick out the correct base liquid for the potion. Say they can be wine, it can be spirit, it can be water. I think maybe it can be honey too. And then you need to pick the correct herbs, correct amount of it, 1 batch, 2 batch, 3 batch. You need to either grind it or directly put it into the pot. You need to boil it for a given number of turns of the hourglass, a sand glass. And then you need to, as instructed, distill it or just pour it. And the fact that they are essentially making you do the process that will normally in other games be just a button press, once again, it just contributes to the immersiveness of the game, to the point where in Kingdom Come Deliverance, I find myself doing things that would normally feel boring in other games. For instance, just walking across the street, like just walking across landscape to go from one city to another city, because it's going for a realistic approach. The area between cities is usually not that interesting. It's just a bunch of grass, usually. But because of the immersive aspect they've added to the game, I felt like 400, and as a result, I don't feel nearly as irritated going from one place to the other, because I feel like it's just part of wanting to do. I want to see what Bohemia is like. And I think that's just pretty incredible. And it excludes in all aspects of the game, actually, how it's going to, the game is basically going for a life sim style experience. And so that's that out of the way. The second point I want to talk about is story. I think the story is actually quite awesome. As someone who didn't finish the first game, because to me, the story didn't captivate me well enough. I think the story is much improved here. There are a lot more twists and turns, and there are a lot of interesting set pieces. There are like things like heist. There are definitely a lot of fights and sneaking in, and also defending, sieging castles, all these things. And you meet a lot of interesting characters that behave in ways that you didn't expect. And I think it's just awesome. It's been a while since I've played a game whose narrative is like not straightforward, because I think nowadays a lot of games, their story just kind of, you can see what's happening from the beginning, and you can guess how it'll end, and it usually end how you guess it. And then it's just not interesting. But here you get a lot of twists and turns. That's quite good. And yeah, the final part I think I want to talk about is the combat. So I feel like the combat is still the same from the first game, with the difference being the Master Strike. But so the Master Strike is basically a parry, undodgeable attack. And as long as you attack in the other direction of the enemy's attack with a sword, the correct timing, you can guarantee the hit. So that kind of, I feel like, I mean, it can make sense, but I feel like it kind of trivialize the combat a little bit later in the game, especially because I tend to go off the beaten path and just look for side quests and stuff. I got pretty highly leveled before I tackled the main stories, and then just like, it just looks super hilarious because we're gonna have this like very long speech and about confrontation. It's a big setup, but then when the fight starts, it ended in like 2 seconds, just because I have like a very high level character with very good weapons, so I just need to master strike them once, and then just after the fight ends. Um, so yeah, so I think maybe balance wise, something could be done here because only Sword can do Master Strike, which I feel like makes sense. But that just make other weapons not nearly as useful. I never felt the need to use like an axe or a polearm just because they cannot do Master Strike. And the enemies in this game tend to actually block and dodge a lot. So if you use other weapons, it's just honestly not nearly as effective. And another sort of complaint I have about the game is how the economy works, because the like vendors usually only have like $100 or like Russians, and later in the game you can get like a very good armor and weapons that sells for like more than 800 on their own. So the fact that the vendors you can have like essentially a lot of good items on you and you can't very easily sell them. It's kind of annoying. And also, what is slightly annoying is also there's not that much use for money in the game. There's not a lot of things, honestly, to spend money on. And for someone who's playing like a loot goblin, I wish they're more interesting. I wish there's more reward for just stealing a lot of stuff and hoarding and just having a lot of money and being able to buy some cool stuff. There's really not that much interesting stuff to buy here. Because most of the best weapons are always the ones that you forge yourself. And now on that front, I have no problem with, because I think it ties into the cool blacksmithing mechanic. But the armor you cannot make yourself, but honestly, the armor that you pick out of enemy soldiers are gonna be the best. Anyway, like they're gonna be like basically as good as you can buy. So there's not a lot of good reason to go for like to pick up loot and to sell them to get more money because there's just not a lot of interesting things you could buy. Yeah. But other than that, I think the game's great. The game also, I think, creates a very good message actually. So the game repeats this sentence, war is a nasty business throughout numerous occasions, numerous cutscenes. And I think what it does very well is because a lot of games tries to like deliver a message, right? Like I feel like The Last of Us 2 is trying to basically say, I kind of like revenge doesn't pay or revenge is not good. But I feel like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 did a better job of delivering the message of like, uh, war is a bad business, and when you're trying so hard to get revenge, it might blind you into thinking that whoever you're taking on the revenge is like a demon or a devil, because just some spoiler territory here. In this game, you will eventually get to take on Margvat Olitz, and initially you'll get to take on also Toth, Ishvan Toth. And I think in both situations, the game did a very good job of revealing the humanity aspect of these characters. Because the thing is, since the first game, you've been trying to track down these people because they are the people that killed your parents. And that's a motivator for Henry, why he's coming along, why he's doing all the things he's doing. And since the game does a very good job immersing you, then it's very easy for you to be in character and be like, yeah, we're going to definitely take revenge on these guys who are doing so many horrible things. But the game, during the cutscene and during the conversation with these people, it also reveals to you that like they are really not so different from us. Say Ishvan Toth and Mark Van Olivet. Ishvan Toth has someone that he loves, right? And this is like a subtly hinted gay relationship in the game, and I think it's done very well. I think it reveals that subtle point that being gay in medieval Europe is really hard. You definitely can't reveal it out in the sun. You have to do it in secret, and I think that's very well done. It's not over the top, but it gets the point across. And when you confront Mark Violet, you also realize that, although in your mind, he is like an absolute demon, he's a horrible person who killed your parents and also killed all the other some people. But at the end of the day, they're actually not that different because of what you've been through. You realized that a fight, winning a war, a lot of time takes choosing between two terrible decisions, right? So for instance, you have to choose between, at one point, either to tell Wamburgo that the son of Lord Semi betrayed him and essentially being honest, or hold back that information and save Lord Semi from getting burnt out. And at another point, when you are trying to siege the castle, you have to choose between, well, do you kill the innocent civilians in the village and create a fire to draw out the enemies and thus save yourself the hassle of having to attack a well-fortified fortress, or do you spare those innocent people and risk having your own men killed during the much tougher siege? And those are like the decisions, and I think make the player realize, well, yeah, like war is an nasty business, and a lot of time there's no good decision, and to win, there's no really clean, like morally superior person in the war. And I think that's what Wallace was saying, and I think that really make you realize that in the end, the person who you're trying to get a revenge on, he's still a human being. He's really not that different from you and me, and he's really just on the other side of the conflict. He has family, he has friends, he has people that he cares about, he has people that care about him, he has children that loves him, that he loves. And of course, these people are all more cruel than Henry, but at the end of the day, they're not like an unredeemable person that nobody loves. They have a lot of people that he loves and loves him. So, yeah, I think the game does a really good job delivering, essentially having the player empathize with the message that they're trying to speak, which is, essentially war is terrible and we shouldn't have it. But the thing is, if they just state it in a lecture format, or like they just didactically have someone prepare a great speech in the end, like, this is the great philosophy that you follow, then it will lose all of the greatness, all the awesomeness of the game, because then you didn't come up with it yourself, right? Then you wouldn't sympathize with it, which is, I think, what a lot of games fall pitfall to. For instance, although I haven't played the game before, I heard Dragon Age Velguard did have like this character called Tosh, and she is always saying things about being non-binary. And I feel like from the clips that I've seen, they really could have done a better job, because the end product for that game is really, you have a character that's really annoying that nobody likes. And I think it's fine to have a message in the game, but you need to create a narrative to engender that feeling from the player. You need to have the player say themselves what you want to say yourself. And I think in this game they did, and in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, they did a good job of essentially guiding you through this experience in the war-torn Bohemia. And then you realize, yeah, like the two sides are really not that different. Although initially we thought we were the better ones, we were the right ones. And the other side are savages that are attacking innocents. Because after we've gone through all these things, we realized that war is not such an easy thing to do right. And a lot of time we have to make tough decisions to win. We have to do terrible things. And yeah, and maybe in the end, it's better just not have war then, you know? So it also came at an opportune time when we have right now a war at Eastern European again. So yeah, profound message. And overall, great game. I would say the game is also very long. It probably took me, I don't know, like 60, 80 hours probably to finish the game. Now, when I said that is because I did a lot of time I was fooling around trying to steal things and explore and do alchemy, all the mini game stuff. But I didn't even 100% it. So the game actually, I feel like if you do all the things that you can do, it probably would take you like 100 hours or something at least, because the game has 2 maps. One is in the Bakov region, and one is in Kutenberg region. And I did majority of the side quests in the first region. I skipped most of the side quests in the second region. And that still came down to, I think, probably at least 60, 70 hours of gameplay. So it's quite a long game. And that reminds me, I kind of want to talk about the length of the game a bit, just because I think as awesome as the game is, sometimes being too long, the game is also a detriment, as much as I enjoyed what it has to offer. And because I think initial maybe half of the game, I was like super excited, and it was super awesome that this game is presented to me. And during the second half of the game, I kind of, I'm not as excited to play the game. I'm not as, jumping out of my seat to try to start the game. I think it's just because of how long it's got. And there's something about even like awesome things, you can have too much of it. And I think it's because when you first start a game, there's a novelty factor to it, right? It's something new. You're exploring, you're experiencing new stuff, you're discovering what the developer has prepared for you, new mechanics, right? New storytelling, new narratives, new mini games. But after, say, maybe 30, 40 hours, there won't be new systems coming anymore. It would just kind of be more of the same thing. Now, when I say the game's very good, so more of the same thing is still very good. But with that loss of novelty, it's not as exciting as it was in the beginning. So I feel like the game can be too long. And I'm not saying the game is too long, because at the end of the day, you don't have to do all the side content. If you just do the main content, I think you can actually finish the game pretty quickly. Probably, I think, 20 hours you can finish the game. But if you actually are like really interested in this historical period, you can actually play for a real long time. I think probably 100 hours, even if you do all the side quests. And I think the side quests is actually usually pretty interesting. The majority of them are not fetch quests, which I'm very happy about, because those are usually the ones that really turn you off. For instance, like I remember playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I actually quite enjoyed the main story of Odyssey, and I was trying to finish it, but unfortunately, the Assassin's Creed Odyssey is so big, and the map has so many things in it, and whenever I see like an activity icon in the map, I just have to go and check out what it is and choose to do it. And then again, so many of them has like liberation of fortress, have like little side quests that's kind of like just a fetch quest and maybe sometimes a little bit of combat. And it just kind of wore me out before I even got to the latter part of the main story. Just because I was liberating so many fortresses, the game became too repetitive for me, and then I just stopped playing. So I think there can definitely be games that are too long, and I think like for me, 40 hours is probably like a sweet spot where I feel like the game never overstayed the welcome, and the game was always like new and exciting the whole way through. Uh, yeah. No, with that said, there are a lot of games that I really enjoy are longer than that. Um, but so I would never say no to more awesomeness. So, but yeah, but there was just kind of my 2 cents on the length of the games. So, in conclusion, I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is brilliant. If you are okay, or like if you enjoy role playing games, if you enjoy role playing game in a medieval setting, I think it could be for you. With that said, I don't think it's for everyone though, because of the immersive aspect, because of the life sim aspect. Like for instance, the fact that you can't just save willy nilly. You have to create a potion for it, or you have to exit the game and save, or you have to sleep in the bed that you own. Right? And the fact that you have to track your hunger meter, the fact that you have to track the, I know, sleep meter, right? All those things um, may be annoying for people. Like the fact that when you create alchemy potions and concoctions, you can't just click a button and do it. You have to do it yourself. Uh, that for me is a plus, but I can see how that can be a drawback for people who are not super into this sort of thing, and just they kind of want to maybe just experience the story and do some quick combat and not to worry too much about, not to think too deep about what's happening and what to do, and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I think it's a great medieval life simulator with a very good story, very good set pieces to introduce you to probably some medieval narratives that you didn't know before. Um, and with a pretty decent combat system that shouldn't get in the way, because as long as you learn Master Strike, the game becomes pretty easy. And just live your life as Henry, as a medieval blacksmith in Bohemia. And yeah, just your adventure as a completely different person in the 1300. I think it's great. It's awesome. I think it's worth the money.